Theia, which is a Mars-sized planetoid. And this collision ripped apart early Earth's crust, and that crust then coalesced, it snowballed into a whole separate entity, which we now call the Moon.
The largest and the biggest object on our night sky. The Moon makes Earth a more habitable planet by moderating its wobble on its axis. This leads to a relatively stable climate. And of course, the gravitational pull of the Moon causes tides, creating a rhythm that has guided humans for thousands of years. Today, exploration of the Moon presents abundant, exciting engineering challenges. It is an excellent place to test technologies, flight capabilities, life support systems, and exploration techniques to reduce the risks and increase the productivity of future missions. Different space missions will provide us with the first experience of living and working in another world, allowing us to test advanced materials and equipment in the temperature and radiation extremes of space. Humans will learn how to best employ robots to support tasks, explore remote locations, and gather information in potentially hazardous regions. By successfully establishing a presence on the Moon, we will enhance life on Earth and prepare to explore the rest of the solar system and beyond. Keeping astronauts healthy in a lower gravity and higher radiation environment than Earth is an important challenge for medical researchers. This has potential benefits for the entire mankind in terms of prevention and treatment of bone and muscle loss and some cancers. Exploration of the Moon also creates new business opportunities for technological innovations and applications, and utilization of new resources. And finally, establishing outposts on the Moon enables adventurers and explorers to extend exploration and settlement to planets and moons beyond Earth. There is an entire universe of unknowns waiting for us to investigate and take us over the Moon, literally.
People all over India are praying, in fact, for that soft landing. Fingers certainly crossed. A billion prayers for Chandrayaan-3 today. Amit Bhardwaj, my colleague, is getting us more details on that, joining us from Delhi right now. Amit is in fact in Vidya School, giving us an idea about how, Amit, the kids really are feeling about this entire mission. What do they have to say, Amit?
Well, Sneha, this school in Delhi, Vidya Bal Bhavan, has made peculiar kind of arrangements to make sure that all these kids that you are seeing right now with tirangas in their hands, very excited about Chandrayaan landing. And they were, a couple of minutes back, they were actually wishing all the best Chandrayaan, slogans like that.
All the best, Chandrayaan!
So, and Snehal, I'll give you a visual as well. I'll request Sachin to pan the camera to show you here. So this is resembling Moon, and the drone is being used here to give an idea of the realistic landing that is going to happen today of Chandrayaan-3. So this particular drone will be used in a manner to make these students understand as to how Chandrayaan will make its descent on Moon today, which is going to create history as and when the safe and soft landing happens on Moon. And we'll also speak to the students here to understand as to how excited are you for the Chandrayaan-3 landing?
I'm very excited, as it is a proud moment for us that our India is the first one to land on the southern pole of the Moon. So we are very excited, and we pray to Chandrayaan that it land today, not to postpone on 27.
Okay. Last time around, kids like you were quite excited as well when Chandrayaan-2 was making that, attempting that soft landing. But things didn't go as per the plan, even though we had 50% success. But what are your prayers for the day today?
Sir, I am very excited and I prayed to God in the morning that this time our Chandrayaan should land and not to be postponed on 27, because this is a very mesmerizing day for us to land on South Pole, since India is the first country to land on South Pole and fourth country to land on Moon. So I am super duper excited and I also prayed to God.
Did you also pray to God today in the morning before coming to?
I'm with my fingers crossed, and I want and I hope that India Chandrayaan lands successfully there. We have to prove the world that we are the best. We will make history today.
Sir, before I go to the kids here, what is the kind of arrangements or preparations that you have made today to make sure that all these kids sitting today also get a realistic view of Chandrayaan 3 landing?
Today we have arranged the screen for live telecast in the school, and from the morning our students and teachers are very crazy or feel I am very proud, and along with my teacher proud that we are the part of Indian, or today we have very proud moment.
Part of the history today, the history that is going to be created, and all these students, Sneha, you can look at these excited faces with a sort of nervousness as well, and tirangas on their desk as well. So you're going to spend the day here watching the preparations for landing, the ISRO documentaries that were playing.
Definitely.
All the best Chandrayaan slogans being raised here. All the best Chandrayaan. That's the slogan for the day, right?
Yes, sir. We all are excited for this day only. From the launch of the Chandrayaan only, we all were finger crossing and waiting for this moment only, that our country will represent ourselves at the Chandrayaan. Because this is the moment when our country will be at that point where no other countries could reach. They were spending more money than us, but we are the person who will stand here and will show the world that who we are. We are Indians.
Okay, we are Indians, and tirangas are in hands of these bright students waiting for Chandrayaan 3 to make a soft and safe landing on Moon. And right there again, all the best Chandrayaan. Cheers for Chandrayaan continues in the national capital with tirangas in their hands. And the basic idea is that, many of these students also understand the fact, the challenges that await Chandrayaan 3. And as you just heard a young gentleman speak about as to how other countries have spent a lot of money in their projects, but they did not had much success. The reference is obviously to Lunar 25, the Russia's attempt to make safe and soft landing on Moon, how that failed. But today, all these students are also, they have their fingers crossed. Many of them also offered prayers in the morning. I'll again cut across to these students to understand as to how excited they are for the day. What's your name? Can you come on this side? Yeah. What's your name, and how excited are you for the day?
My name is Kanishka, and I'm very much excited for the Chandrayaan 3 launch mission. As we know it, we are the first country to land on the South Pole, Lunar South Pole, and our mission will be of 14 days, one Lunar day. And also we are happy that we will be the fourth country, and after Russia, after Chandrayaan 2 failure, we are hoping that, and we are definitely sure that we will succeed in this mission.
There's Lunar 25 failure as well, right? So, did you offer prayers? You are also hoping, however, this is a very scientific mission that we are at, but did you also offer prayer like we do on all important days as well?
Yeah, exactly. From the day of the launch, 14 July, I'm really excited for it. And today I woke up at 5 a.m. I definitely usually woke up at 6 a.m. But today I especially woke up at 5 a.m., do all the bathing and all, and go to the temples and all to offer my prayers that this mission should be successful today only, and it should not be postponed. We are very much excited for it.
And are you guys going to stay back in the school today until the soft and safe landing happens?
मैं अपने भारत के इस गर्वशाली मोमेंट के लिए एक कुछ लाइनें सुनाना चाहती हूँ. सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा हमारा, सारे जहां से अच्छा हम बुलबुले हैं इसकी, ये गुलसिता हमारा हमारा, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा हमारा, सारे जहां से अच्छा. Thank you.
So right there, the message that stays there is that everybody, every student out here in the country, across the country, are praying that Chandrayaan 3 gets its safe and soft landing today. And there are prayers, students are nervous, they have their fingers crossed, they are cheering for Chandrayaan 3 and as well as praying, really proud of this particular moment. Sare jahan se acha, along with Bharat Mata ki jai. And this is not just excitement, Sneha. There's scientific learning to it as well. I'll request Sachin to pan the camera if possible and show you as to how they are also having a view at the ISRO documentary that is being played, at different scientific visuals, how drone is being used to give a realistic understanding of the landing that is going to happen today. And this particular drone is being used as the lander of Chandrayaan 3, and it will show the descent of Chandrayaan 3. And this is the moon which has been created out here to give a realistic view of how things will be unfolding around 5 to 6 p.m. on moon, and how India will create history at that particular moment. Back to you, Sneha.
We are certainly creating history, and Amit, I'm going to thank you for the moment, for getting us that absolutely lovely ground report. Kids are enthusiastic, so are we, because this is a moment that all of us will remember in our entire lifetimes. 4 minutes past 6 is when Chandrayaan 3 makes a soft landing on the moon. From our Space Center here at India Today, let's give you a sense of why has the moon been just so fascinating. First of all, it's actually the only celestial body where humans have visited, where humans have touched down upon. The reason being, it just takes a couple of days or so for spacecraft to travel from Earth and reach the moon. And that's the reason why the attempt clearly is to reach the moon.
Space exploration is not even a century old, but man's moon mission has crossed 100. In the past 7 decades, there have been 62 successful missions to the moon. 41 missions failed, and only 8 were partially successful. The very first mission to the moon was a flyby carried out by the USA. On 17th August 1958, Pioneer 0 ended just 77 seconds after liftoff, when the rocket's first stage exploded. USA and USSR were competing against each other in their race to the moon. And after many failures and 6 successful missions, the first landing on moon happened in 1966. Lunar 9 of USSR made the first lunar soft landing on 31st August 1966. It also captured the first pictures from the lunar surface. 4 months later, US spacecraft Surveyor 1 made the first successful landing on the moon for Uncle Sam on 30th May 1966.
0, 1,
Between 1966 and 1969, both the USA and USSR carried out some successful and many failed missions to the moon to understand and prepare for manned mission to the orb of night. On 16 July 1969, history was made with the successful Apollo 11 mission, as Neil Armstrong of the USA became the first human to land on the moon. Edward Buzz Aldrin joined Armstrong 19 minutes later. Together, they spent nearly 2 hours outside the lunar module, taking photographs and collecting 21.5 kilos of lunar material to bring back to Earth for testing.
It was the ultimate peaceful competition, USA versus USSR. I'll not assert that it was a diversion which prevented a war. Nonetheless, it was a diversion. It was intense, and it did allow to both sides to take the high road with the objectives of science and learning and exploration.
Mission sequence started. All engines are...
A few successful robotic landings and manned missions later, the first and so far the only scientist to land on the moon was Harrison Schmitt. Hosted by Apollo 17 on 7th December 1972, Commander Gene Cernan and Lunar Module pilot Harrison Schmitt walked on the moon, while Command Module pilot Ronald Evans orbited above. Geologist by profession, Schmitt became the 12th and second youngest person to set foot on the moon. He is also the second to last person to step off the moon as he boarded the lunar module shortly before Commander Eugene Cernan. Schmitt also remains the only professional scientist to have flown beyond low Earth orbit and to have visited the moon till date.
The experience is going to be more than you ever anticipated, and it was that way for me to get onto the moon. Seeing this valley of Taurus Littrow, which is deeper than the Grand Canyon, as a matter of fact, mountains to 6,000 and 7,000 feet above you on either side of the valley, all silhouetted against a black sky with brilliantly illuminated mountain slopes, and the Earth, of course, in one spot above the southern part of the massifs. That all was a new experience, of course, and you can't. You can hear people talk about it, but you can't absorb it until you're there. Being there is the essential human ingredient in any kind of experience of that kind.
Asia joined the race to the moon in 1990 with Japan's successful Hiten mission. The first successful Chinese moon mission happened a year before India's debut with Chandrayaan-1 on 24th October 2007. India so far has conducted 2 successful moon missions, and Chandrayaan-3 is its third attempt.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of LVM-3M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
All right, so that was the history of several countries besides India making several attempts to go to the moon. But what's special here is that this is the south pole of the moon, the dark side of the moon where nobody has reached really. And that is the attempt that India is making us very proud. And Anaga is getting us more details on that story as well. Joining us from Bengaluru right now, getting in the excitement in the air. Anaga, as far as students and everybody else is concerned, everybody is going to be glued to the television sets today to get a sense of how history really is made, isn't it?
You know, Sneha, if you can just give me 2-3 minutes, I'd really like to show you the wonderful works that the students of Orchids International School in Bangalore have done. So I have with me a bunch of 10 to 15 students who have put in the hard yards to make miniature models of Chandrayaan-3, right from LMV to, to the rover Pragyan, to lander module, to propulsion module. They've made these wonderful little models. And keep in mind, they had only 2 days in their hands to make such beautiful models. So let's go straight to Sana. She's going to be heading this team, and she has some words to talk about Chandrayaan-3. Sana, tell us, what does Chandrayaan-3 mean to you, and what do you know about this mission?
So, well, Chandrayaan-3 was actually launched on 14th of July 2023, and the main purpose of this launch was to research more about the south pole of the moon. Correct. And the objectives of this launch were, it includes to demonstrate a safe and soft landing, and to it was for scientific research purposes, and also to exhibit rover mobility. Yeah. And the launch vehicle which is used here is actually the LMV-3 Mark IV, wherein LMV actually stands for Lunar Modular Vehicle.
Sana, you seem to be knowing all the details on spot. So are you like a science geek, and how interested are you in astronomy? Do you plan on venturing into this space when you grow up?
Well, space is actually quite interesting, and I have thought of it as a career option. Wow. But it's still there on the wait list.
Who's your inspiration?
Well, I forgot the name of this astronaut. Chawla. Yeah.
Wow.
I've always been inspired by her, so yeah.
Lovely. All the best to you, Sana. I also want to go to Manas. Manas, can you explain to our viewers about any one of these models that you have done and the significance of this in Chandrayaan-3, and most importantly, how you made these models?
So we've done this model right here, and this model over here.
What is
this is the lander lander model. It's like a DIY lander model which we made up in 2 days. Okay. That is the solar panel. This is one of the main parts, and there's a connector over here, and that is mainly the lander over here. This part is the orbiter, and this is the lander with, you can see the landing pads over there, and maybe that also contains the rover. And we've also made the few students have also made the rocket model over that one right there, which consists of the propulsion model, which will actually help take the lander and the rover up to the lunar orbit, and it will, after deploying the lander, the propulsion module will actually remain in orbit, because it also carries another experimental payload, and that propulsion module along with the payload will have a mission life of about 3 to 6 months.
Superb. You've got all the details correct. Manas, I also want to know from you, since you know all these details by heart in your hand, what was the learning curve that you had while you were making these models?
So obviously, while we were making these models, we had to have a certain level of knowledge about the mission. So as in our team, we did research about the mission, and because space is something that it's endless, and there are so many possibilities, so many fascinating things out there. It's not really that hard to get that interest to get that.
Right. Sneha, this is
the attempt is to explore the lunar surface. NASA scientists explain in this report.
Where did our moon come from? Well, actually, there have been several theories over many decades. Earlier versions of lunar formation theories included capture, where the moon would have been a strayed planetoid. Another version was fission, where the Earth was spinning so fast that it would have warped out of the Earth and then formed its own body. This led to our current theory, the giant impactor theory. So this collision was during the late stages of planetary formation throughout our entire solar system, when planets were still very new and very much forming. So this happened when Earth was just an embryo, a baby planet, and this was actually in a crash course collision with Theia, which is a Mars-sized planetoid. And this collision ripped apart early Earth's crust, and that crust then coalesced, it snowballed into a whole separate entity, which we now call the moon. So where did our moon come from? Well, currently our understanding is that the Earth had collided with a Mars-sized object named Theia. But once we send future astronauts to the lunar surface again, who knows? We may actually have a whole new theory in the coming decades.
Well, that report and much more going up on our website as well. That's indiatoday.in. You can also download the India Today app. Do continue to watch us for the latest updates on every single movement of Chandrayaan-3, of course. We're holding our breath up to 4 minutes past 6 this evening when Chandrayaan-3 makes a soft landing on the South Pole on the dark side of the moon. Thanks for watching.
Where did our moon come from? Well, actually, there have been several theories over many decades. Earlier versions of lunar formation theories included capture, where the moon would have been a strayed planetoid. Another version was fission, where the Earth was spinning so fast that it would have warped out of the Earth and then formed its own body. This led to our current theory, the giant impactor theory. So this collision was during the late stages of planetary formation throughout our entire solar system, when planets were still very new and very much forming. So this happened when Earth was just an embryo, a baby planet. And this was actually in a crash course collision with Theia, which is a Mars-sized planetoid. And this collision ripped apart early Earth's crust. And that crust then coalesced, it snowballed into a whole separate entity, which we now call the Moon. So, where did our moon come from? Well, currently, our understanding is that the Earth had collided with a Mars-sized object named Theia. But once we send future astronauts to the lunar surface again, who knows? We may actually have a whole new theory in the coming decades.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Getting you up to speed with the final stage of India's moon mission. A very good morning. I'm Sneha Mordani. We're tracking that big story right here. A quick check of the headlines in this edition first. Final stage of India's moon mission begins. ISRO uploads commands in lander Vikram. Commands in lander to be locked by the afternoon. That is the final phase of Chandrayaan-3 landing. Landing begins at about 5:45 p.m., 25 kilometers from the moon. Tricky maneuvers for the next 15 minutes. We decode the 15 minutes of terror. Just like the entire nation, the Prime Minister's gaze is also to be fixed on Vikram. Prime Minister Modi to watch every moment of Chandrayaan's landing live from Johannesburg. Not just Chandrayaan-3, all eyes on chess prodigy Paragananda as he takes on world number 1 Magnus Carlsen for the second game as the first one ended in a draw. US President Joe Biden is confirmed to attend the G20 Leaders Summit in New Delhi. Talks on clean energy transition and climate change.
When President Biden asked me to consider serving here, And he told me, when he asked me to come serve here, he said, this is the most important country in the world to me. I think something that no American president has ever uttered in the history of our two countries.
And welcome. You're joining us on our rolling coverage here of the Chandrayaan-3 landing on the moon. I'm joining you from the heart of all of the action from the ISRO headquarters in Bengaluru. Meters away from me, inside the mission tracking complex, is where Team Chandrayaan is currently seated. They're giving the go-ahead for several commands right now to lander Vikram. All protocol procedure being put in place. Why? Because we have less than 7 hours to go for the soft landing to take place on the south pole of the moon. 5:20 is when the live streaming will begin. 5:45 is when the actual descent will happen. And in a matter of 4 stages, in 15 minutes, referred to as the 15 minutes of terror for all of these scientists and among the space fraternity, that's when it will be decided whether this mission is a success or not, whether we've successfully created history by touching down on the surface of the moon. Now, over the next 1 hour, I'm going to be getting you all the latest updates that's coming in from ISRO. What we can tell you at this point is that they're getting set for that landing. Commands have been shot across to lander Vikram, and all of these commands are about engines, 4 engines that are in Vikram, 2 of which will go off in the second stage of the 4-stage landing that is planned between 5:45 to 6:04 p.m. Now, it is in that stage that you will have a command being sent across by ISRO, which has already been loaded in. And then at about 1 to 2 p.m. is when the commands will be locked and loaded. And that will be based on the weather conditions as well. In less than 7 hours from now is when the landing will actually take place. At 6:04 p.m. is the time given by ISRO. That is the time when the landing will actually be completed. So that's when we will know that India has made it to the moon. 2 hours after that, the rover will be released onto the surface of the moon. Excitement is right now at its peak. And as we continue to get you all of those details of what we're picking up from the control rooms right now, the commands have been locked in, and by afternoon, by 1 to 2 p.m. is when, in fact, we're going to be seeing all of it being finalized. The commands will be finalized in the lander. It will be locked in, which means then the ISRO team has decided that the conditions are absolutely perfect for a soft landing to be attempted. We spoke a lot about a plan B yesterday. That plan B will kick in if conditions aren't in favor, and this has nothing to do with the lander. As far as Vikram is concerned, everything is already in place. It's only with regards to the natural conditions, with regards to the climatic conditions, the rise of lunar dust and all of that, the temperatures in the south pole of the moon, which is already at about minus 300 degrees Celsius. So you can imagine how bad it is as it is there. Now, in fact, after that, if those conditions are favorable, then at 1 to 2 p.m., you will be seeing everything continuing as per plan. And that's when the commands will actually be locked in to the lander Vikram. Now, excitement, as I said, is at its peak. We've been getting you also images of how there are wishes pouring in from across the nation. It's a big day for ISRO. It's also a big day for all of us in the country and the world, as I've been highlighting. Amit Bharadwaj, Sunil Bhatt are joining us live on this broadcast. Amit, to you first. Take us through, what's happening in the national capital. There are several parts of Delhi and across the country, really, where preparations have been made for people to come together in large groups and witness that landing live.
Well, absolutely right, Akshata. There's sense of excitement, there's sense of nervousness as well, all across schools and across the country, as well as in Indian diaspora across the world, as well as the scientist community across the globe. And today I am in Vidya Bal Bhavan of the National Capital, and these are very excited students, science enthusiasts who are here to witness this historic moment. And what better could be than, having Tiranga, the national flag in their hands, and Indian music being, played as a form of prayer and excitement by these students to witness this moment. And right behind us is, a prototype of sorts, if I may call it, to show the students the landing of Chandrayaan-3. And in this particular school, you can see this drone is working as a lander, and it is making a soft and safe landing on the moon's surface right there. This is how this school has attempted to show, make the students realize as to how the entire safe and soft landing is going to happen on moon today by Chandrayaan-3, and that is what we are hoping, and that is what all these students are hoping today. In a way, all these select students have been given exemption from their regular classes. Yes. Akshata, all I can tell you is that
getting us all of those updates. I just want to take this across also to Sunilji Bhatt, who's joining us live from Jammu, where again you've got a lot of preparations underway for the viewing of the soft landing. Sunilji, good morning. It's over to you.
For the soft landing of Chandrayaan-3 on the south pole of the moon. The entire nation is waiting with bated breath for this historic moment. Right now, I am at Jammu's Jodamal Public School, and here you can see that a large number of students have assembled here, and they are very excited. There is massive enthusiasm among them. The excitement is palpable, and you can see that they are chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai, they are chanting Vande Mataram slogans. So there is enthusiasm here among the science enthusiasts. I will talk to one of the students here. Your good name?
Aditya Singh Sambyar.
Aditya, you have built a model of Chandrayaan-3. Just explain it to us. What have you done?
Yes, so I have built this model to show the previous missions of ISRO. So here you can see, this is the Rohini 75 rocket.
Okay.
It was the first rocket ever made by India. This is the Aryabhatta satellite. It was the first satellite built by India. This is the GSLV MK3.
So you have built it?
Yes.
Are you going to become a scientist? Is that your aim in life?
Yes, that's it. That is my aim in life.
And the success of ISRO is motivating you, encouraging you?
Yes, it is very inspiring me very much.
Absolutely. I will talk to one more student here. Ma'am, your good name?
Vitasta Zuchi.
Yeah, Vitasta, how excited are you about this historic moment?
First of all, I would like to congratulate the entire nation of India and the ISRO scientists, and it is with profound happiness and enthusiasm that we are all here to talk about it. It is this mission is not only about the hard work and dedication being put by the scientists, but also...
Can you all of you sing a song?
Yeah, sure. सुनो गौर से दुनिया वालों, बुरी नजर ना हम पे डालो, चाहे जितना जोर लगा लो, सबसे आगे होंगे हिंदुस्तानी, हिंदुस्तानी, हमने कहा है, तुम भी कहो.
So, सबसे आगे होंगे हिंदुस्तानी. So, India is going to create history, and that's what all of us are, hoping and praying for, that Chandrayaan-3 will make a soft landing on the south pole of moon, and we will become the first nation to achieve this feat. And here in Jammu's Jodamal Public School, students are quite excited, and they are also praying for the success of Chandrayaan-3's soft landing on moon's south pole.
That was simply wonderful. All of them singing a song also dedicated to the ISRO scientists. Thanks very much, Sunilji, for getting us that ground report. Let me just open this up also. Joining us on this broadcast is Mr. Ajay Lele, consultant at the Manohar Parrikar Institute of Defence Studies, author of Space Tech Asia, also Shakil Ahmed, co-founder and director of Spark Astronomy. Mr. Shakil Ahmed, good morning. We've all got our fingers crossed that we'll get some great news today, that today is going to be a historic day for us in the country, and I'd really say across the world, because we've never seen anyone making a touchdown on the south pole of the moon. There's a lot of talk, Mr. Shakil Ahmed, about the 15 minutes of terror, and I think with any space mission there are so and so minutes of terror which essentially decides the fate of the operation. Can you explain in this case what exactly happens in that 15 minutes of terror?
Very good morning and Jai Hind to India, and I'm very excited to be here, and of course the entire India is excited for this wonderful mission. And so that the thing that you're talking about, the 15 minutes, last 15 minutes is very crucial, because at last moment, the speed of the vehicle as well as the position of the vehicle, that matters. So even last time when we talk about the Chandrayaan-2, the position of the vehicle has to change at the last moment, which is the most difficult part of any landing. So as you know, the lander rotates around the moon while it takes the position, and it is in the horizontal position. And to come from the horizontal position to vertical position is the most difficult task, which we are very sure this time we should be able to achieve, and we should be able to achieve the right speed to be able to actually land on the moon. So I'm very sure we are going to make it this time. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Ahmed, we're going to come back to you, but I just want to also check if we've got Shibimol live with us. She's got with her the former ISRO chairman, Mr. Madhavan Nair. I wonder if Shibi is with us. We'll try to connect with her also, because we'd love to hear from, in fact, our ISRO heroes and all the work that's come in so far, and that's helped us really get to this moment. 15 minutes of terror is when we will know whether the soft landing has been completed or not. In those 15 minutes, if everything goes as per plan, if the automated systems work as they're supposed to, that means we've got the green signal, we're touching down safely on the lunar surface. And imagine that moment. It's going to come very, very soon, because we're just hours away from really the moment when Chandrayaan-3 will touch down on the moon. At 5:45 is when that 15 minutes will kick off. Largely, you could say about 19 minutes, because the time stipulated by ISRO it'll take is still 6:04 p.m. That's when the soft landing will be completed. So we will try to connect with Mr. G. Madhavan Nair. In the meanwhile, I want you to take a look at our next report, where we talk about lander Vikram. Right now, all focus is on this big boy. He is about 1,770 kilos light, you could say, for, in fact, a spacecraft of this manner, considering that Chandrayaan-3 by itself was about 3,600 kilos. You had the propulsion module being separated. The lander since has been doing this elliptical orbit around the moon on his own. And now lander Vikram, in hours from now, will finally get to call it a day, will finally get to at least rest and relax a bit after that crucial maneuver when he touches down on the south pole of the moon. A lot of tweaks that have been made to lander Vikram to ensure that the lessons from Chandrayaan-2 could kind of be incorporated in lander Vikram in Chandrayaan-3 to ensure this one is a 100% success. Take a look at this report.
The Indian Space Research Organization has successfully reduced the orbit of the Chandrayaan-3 mission's lander module Vikram on Sunday. Vikram is on its own journey towards the lunar surface now. Equipped with 4 landing legs and 4 landing thrusters of 800 newtons of force each, Vikram is designed for a soft landing on the moon. It carries within it a rover named Pragyan. Chandrayaan-3 is largely a replica of its predecessor Chandrayaan-2. Chandrayaan-2 was launched in July 2019 in the form of an orbiter and a lander Vikram bearing a rover Pragyan. Vikram entered into orbit around the moon, but the surface mission failed in September 2019. The lander Vikram crashed instead of executing a slow descent. ISRO later identified a problem. Based on it this time, ISRO has strengthened the lander's legs, lowered its minimum thrust, enhanced the availability of power, and upgraded the landing sequence to a soft landing. The Vikram lander is currently traveling at about 25 kilometers above the lunar surface at a speed of 6,000 kilometers per hour. From this, it needs to come down to a speed of 1 meter per second within seconds. It then further needs to make a sharp 90-degree turn as it starts moving away from its orbit. ISRO will need to make some major adjustments at very quick, almost breakneck speeds. To achieve a successful landing, Chandrayaan-3 has lander hazard detection and avoidance cameras that will be used to coordinate with the orbiter and mission control as the lander makes its careful descent approach to the surface of the moon. Vikram, the lander module, also carries Laser Retroreflector Array or LRA. It would carry out a passive experiment to understand the dynamics of the moon system. Once the soft landing is achieved, the rover Pragyan will be deployed on the lunar surface on the South Pole to carry out its own research to find evidence of water molecules.
So we are going to measure it for the first time. What is the kind of profile that will be existing? So you have a probe that will be inserted into the lunar regolith. We will penetrate up to around 10 centimeter for probing. Actually 14 centimeter including the tip. The tip will be actually aiding us to penetrate. So 10 centimeter of the lunar surface will be probed. Temperature will be measured, and basically it will give you the conductivity. This regolith can be a building block for future space bases, lunar bases.
Chandrayaan-3 is the third installment of the Chandrayaan series and represents India's second attempt to achieve a soft landing on the moon's surface. So far, only 3 countries have successfully landed spacecraft on the airless lunar world. Failure of the recent Russian moon mission has put the limelight back on India's Chandrayaan-3.
As we count down to Chandrayaan-3's landing on the moon, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce here on India Today Mr. Madhavan Nair, former ISRO chief. Mr. Nair, namaskaram. Thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here on India Today, sir. At this point, the countdown is on. We're hours away. I'd like you to explain a few technicalities to us, Mr. Nair. We got a news break coming in from inside the ISRO headquarters, where I am currently, that the commands have been sent across to the Vikram lander, that it will be locked finally in a few hours from now. Can you explain what really that means, sir?
Well, certainly this is going to be the most difficult and challenging moment as far as the Chandrayaan-3 mission is concerned. To get out of the moon's orbit and to have a soft landing is an extremely difficult process. Very few countries have succeeded in the past, and that too the success rate is quite low. As you have explained earlier, the Chandrayaan-2, we had a mishap just 2 kilometers above the surface of the moon. And since then, ISRO has done a considerable amount of design modifications, studies, simulations, and then with that confidence, they have built the Chandrayaan-3, and these operations are going to be initiated today evening. The real challenge is in identifying a clear spot for landing and reducing the speed of the spacecraft from about 6 kilometers per hour to something like a few meters per second, and also to see that it lands in a clear area where there are no boulders or no craters. So this operation is completely autonomous and programmed to be implemented by the onboard computer with its host of sensors and the algorithm which is built into it. It is based on the ground simulation. These parameters are finalized, and if anything misbehaves, either the thrusters or the sensors, the laser ranging system or the cameras, we can get into problem. But at the same time, the amount of simulation what they have done, perturbing the parameters to the maximum extent possible and identifying possible scenarios of failure also, and how to reconfigure and go ahead. So these experiments have been done successfully by ISRO, and there is a good chance that we will be able to make this event happen. The last leg of the journey, the spacecraft is going to hover over the surface of the moon, and from there identify a location, suitable location, and laterally move to the location and descend slowly to the surface. So this is going to be the most crucial moment for the mission.
Sir, what you're describing to us essentially happens, if I'm not wrong, in the last 15 minutes, which very often has been referred to as that 15 minutes of terror. In that, sir, is there any control really that the scientists have, or is it completely automated?
I think people named it as the last 15 minutes of horror. It is so, because it is a totally unknown territory. There are no beacons or GPS to guide. It is to be self-contained, and the sensors on board, the gyroscopes, the inertial system, the cameras, laser system, everything has to precisely work. And there is no possibility of any ground intervention once the initiation of the sequence is done. So this is that's how where I think the anxiety comes. Of course, to the extent possible, redundancies have been built in. But still, if there are occasions in which things fail, and if any such glitch happens, we may get into a catastrophe, and that's a real worry for everybody and anxious. But at the same time, I'm confident that with the amount of simulations carried out and the extent of design modification carried out by ISRO, the mission will be a success.
Sir, is there, and this is a tough question, but is there a margin of error that ISRO has accounted for in Chandrayaan 3?
Can you repeat the question again?
Is there a margin of error that's been identified by ISRO scientists, sir, in Chandrayaan 3?
Yes, I think based on the Chandrayaan 2 experience, they have identified what all can go wrong, and they have perturbed to the something like 6 sigma level, that is to the extent the imagination can go. And with that, theoretical probability of a failure is 1 in a million. But I don't think the theory and the practice there could be match. If any which happen beyond the limit of whatever we have conceived in the simulation test, there can be problems. But at the same time, the chances are of such problems occurring are very remote.
And let's hope so. Mr. Madhavan Nair, can you explain to us why this mission is particularly challenging? Because we've chosen the south pole of the moon. Why does that make it all the more challenging, sir, than landing in any other part of the moon?
Well, I think the polar region of the moon is least explored by any country in the past. So that way it's a very unique opportunity for India to collect fundamental data about the lunar surface, its mineral content, the presence of water and the helium-3 and so on. So this will help in establishing the next generation of the exploratory laboratories and so on. And also it will throw a lot of light on the origin of the moon and how the condition of the planet Earth was there at the time of the moon separating from the Earth. So that way scientifically it is going to be a very important event. And the fact that very few countries have succeeded in the past is a very technical challenge. The technology demonstration is something which will show the power of Indian space program to the global community.
Mr. Nair, with this being a success, once Chandrayaan 3 touches down on the moon, do you believe it sets the stage for many more successful missions like Mangalyaan, like Gaganyaan?
Yes, I think already the Aditya mission for observing the sun is very much on and is going to be launched soon. It will be observing various solar phenomena, and then it's a coupling with the planet Earth and so on. And similarly for the exploration of the Venus also, it is on the anvil. And definitely with the confidence what we gain out of the Chandrayaan 3, the future planetary exploratory mission also will pick up momentum.
And finally, Mr. Madhavan Nair, would you like to give a shout out, any message to your ISRO colleagues who've been working for the last many years on Chandrayaan 3? Your message, sir, to them?
Well, I think Chandrayaan 2 has taught us some lessons, but at the same time, it is glad to note that the orbiter, which was part of the Chandrayaan 2, is still functioning, and that will act as a data relay station for Chandrayaan 3 as well. And the lessons learned from Chandrayaan 2 has been used for implementing the corrective actions, and I wish all success for the team ISRO for this historic event.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madhavan Nair, for joining us here on India Today with your insights, with all of your expertise and your knowledge here, giving us a sense of what Chandrayaan 3's mission really is all about, and of course, what happens in that crucial 15 minutes as Vikram lander gets closer and closer to the moon's surface. Always a pleasure to have you here with us on India Today. Let's get you more expert voices. There was one question that I asked Mr. Madhavan Nair about the south pole of the moon, how it makes the mission all the more challenging and how it also makes it all the more exciting. Because we've never had any country really touch down on the south pole of the moon. That's a huge deal because in the moon's surface, every single part of the moon has very different conditions, has very different weather conditions, and it's the polars of the moon where you'll see extremities, which is why landing on the south pole is no small feat. Indian origin American astronaut Sunita Williams, who's been to space several times, is a big voice when it comes to the space exploration. She's spoken particularly about the aspect of the south pole of the moon and of course sent across her wishes to ISRO.
The missions that we are training for, looking at, designing today, they're going to the poles because there's scientific benefits to that. But that makes it very complicated for us to get there, to get in an orbit, to establish a continual orbit to get to that certain spot. And then when we land on the moon, we would like to go there and have a sustainable presence. This mission is going to help us do that by trying to understand in those areas what is there and where would be a beneficial place to land and do some research. But it's really difficult. Yes, we have great technology, which is allowing us, specifically the guidance, navigation, control of the spacecraft, to potentially get there. But actually getting there, understanding what's there is very difficult. And so that's all into that spacecraft. That process has been a number of decades in the making. So it's going to be challenging, but it has a different purpose. We're not just going and coming back. We're going to go there and we'll have a sustainable presence on the moon, and that's complicated.
This is Sunita Williams speaking from her experience of being at space. I know that's got all of us wondering, when will we have ISRO sending someone to space? The manned mission is something that's in the works. Gaganyaan is going to benefit hugely from the success of this mission as well, because it means that ISRO is capable of doing soft landings, which is a very crucial element in a manned mission. So it'll take that giant step towards ensuring that we're closer to a manned mission as well. But while we talk about the moon, talk about manned missions, let's not forget the first man who set foot on the moon, Neil Armstrong. Let's take a trip down memory lane and take a look at that exact moment when Neil Armstrong touched down on the moon and what it meant for humankind. As he said, it was a giant leap.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin.
It was the ultimate peaceful competition, USA versus USSR. I'll not assert that it was a diversion which prevented a war. Nonetheless, it was a diversion. It was intense, and it did allow to both sides to take the high road with the objectives of science and learning and exploration. Eventually, provided a mechanism for engendering cooperation between former adversaries. In that sense, among others, it was an exceptional national investment for both sides.
That footage seared into our minds because it was such a monumental moment that's paved way to what we're talking about today, about exploration of the moon, about a Chandrayaan-3 mission and a soft landing on the moon. I'm slipping into a very short break here on India Today. We're going to continue getting you all the big newsmakers, scientists, the biggest voices as we count down to that crucial moment of landing. 5:45 is when it begins. The live streaming begins at 5:20. In just a few hours from now, I'm going to be making my way inside and getting your first-hand view of what's happening in the mission control room. For the moment, heading into a very short break with some of the wishes that are coming in for Team ISRO.
I think it's a great moment for India and a proud moment for each and every Indian. The kind of, you feel that pride in your heart. And as an Indian, all of us, I think right now, we're waiting to watch it. A lot of people are going to be glued watching it. And I'm going to be doing that with my boys as well, with bated breath.
We would perhaps be the first to reach there. And I understand that the world might not acknowledge this, but every Indian in his heart or her heart knows that this is a very, very great achievement. And even if we don't achieve it, that's perfectly fine. I think the attempt that we have made is stupendous. Nobody has gotten so close, especially on the dark side of the moon. We've got pictures of the dark side of the moon for the first time. So I think it's a tremendous achievement, and we are all elated, proud of whatever you have achieved, ISRO. And may God be with you. May the moon be with you.
These are great moments. We always keep talking about sports, but these are also tremendous achievements for the country. So wish them all the best.
मुझे इस बात की बहुत खुशी है, सब भारतवासियों को खुशी है कि आज हमारा विक्रम लैंडर जो स्पेसक्राफ्ट है वो चांद से बिल्कुल 100 किलोमीटर के आसपास दूर है और ये एक बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है हमारे भारत की, पूरे विश्व के लिए, पूरे यूनिवर्स के लिए, पूरे ह्यूमैनिटी के लिए। और मैं सबको मुबारकबाद देता हूँ, इसरो के चेयरमैन साहब को और उनकी पूरी टीम को।
From the biggest conflict zones
We are at the Hostel Air Base and this is
to the biggest international moments, a reporter with India's flag.
Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Easynomics. On today's show, we focus on inflation, but from a slightly different perspective. Remember viewers, inflation has risen to a 15-month high of 7.4% in July. And this was not expected in some ways, although a lot of economists were talking about. And the government, apart from the RBI, which has been on a tightening curve in the recent past, the government has taken several steps to tame this price rise, and among those supply side measures, including releasing additional cereal stocks from the reserves, managing the import-export of various food commodities, including pulses, basically to ensure that supplies in India don't get impacted, and even restrictions on the exports of rice and sugar. The Department of Economic Affairs in its July monthly economic review report had indicated that there is uneasiness in food inflation and it is likely to subside in some time. To discuss what is happening with regard to this specific component of inflation, which is food products, I am joined by two eminent guests, Vijay Sardana, agricultural economist, and Binod Anand, member of the MSP committee of the Government of India. Thank you very much for joining in. This is not a macro discussion on inflation and the numbers. Like I said, viewers, and before I go to my guests, I just want to bring up a couple of charts to set the context of what we are going to discuss on today's Easynomics show. Let's try and look at the broad numbers first when it comes